Good morning, Colorado. Kyle Danielson here. Welcome to Do It All Danielson. In today's episode, we start taking apart our stock car to get ready for the next big step. Stick around for our adventure today. You're not going to want to miss this. So all the hard work begins with a little bit of demolition. What we're going to do, starting out, is remove all the hardware off of the outside of this car. Not sure if we're going to get to it all today. As we're peeling the hardware off, we're going to try and save these carriage bolts because bolts are expensive. And if they're in good condition, we'll reuse them. In the last episode, we were glad to have seen this car move from Silverton all the way down to Oxford without much lost. We saw little splinters flying off the car en route. All the wood on this car is going to end up being cut down and taken to the dump. Some things we'll end up reusing if we can get good lumber out of it. Might need to recut and reshape. But for starters, my wife and I are going to start taking apart the car. So as I'm already finding, a lot of the bolts are already breaking off inside of the wood. Others are just spinning. So I'm thinking that a lot of the hardware is going to need to be repurchased, but thankfully we can take measurements as we go along. We have some old historic drawings that we can look at in a book that I've got back at home, so we can get the handrails and the stirrups mounted back where they were. That's one off. At the very least, we're going to try and save these square nuts. Oh yeah, and I completely forgot about them the last time that I was down here. I left my sunglasses hanging under the car. So now I can work on this car in style. We're mainly focusing on handrails today. There's other stuff like a cut lever here that we'll end up leaving on, mostly because it's attached to very, very heavy things, such as this knuckle right here. So what does a cut lever do? Well, you pull on it, and it opens the knuckle. So you can connect other train cars to it. Well, that's 2 packages off the wall. Now, the next task after you get the packages off is you gotta bundle them together and label them, which I'm trying to figure out how to label them now. So when you're talking about railroading and how you lay out a car is that you've got an A end and a B end. The A end usually faces forward in the direction of travel, and the B end faces backwards, also referred to as the brake end of the car. This end of the car is called the B end right here. The reason being, this is where the brake stand was that you saw in the last video. And we also have orientation for left and right, and E and F means engineer side, fireman side, left side, right side. In this case, we'll use E and F. This corner package, which I just dolled up, I'll label, we'll do double B and F. BBF, because the one around the corner here, I'm gonna put B and F. So let's label that one right now. This package, B, F. Perfecto. As we go about this series on disassembling and rebuilding this railroad car, I'll give you guys some railroad terminology for certain parts and pieces, but obviously I'm not going to do all that in one video because that's a lot to take in a very short amount of time. So we'll just start with these simple little things. These guys are what you call stirrups, because they kind of look like a stirrup on a saddle. The next thing up that you see here are called grab irons. All right, about to get the rest of the BN stuff off, but we got a storm coming. Hopefully I can do this in the next like 15 minutes. Oh boy, here it comes. Okay, so that one's BBE, just came off of there. And that one is BE. Well, here we are at the end of another fairly long day, about 5 hours worth of work today. But let me show you the last of what I worked on today. Almost the entire B end has been stripped of stirrups and grab irons. What I decided to do was remove a couple of bolts here and a couple of bolts here, and that allowed this brake hanger to drop. I accidentally broke one of these J bolts that go all the way through, so I'm gonna have to figure out how to make a brand spanking new one of those, which is a shame. It started to move, and then yeah, you can see it busted right on through. But as it stands, I'm tired, I'm worn out. It's time to go back to the house. We'll see you there. Psych, you thought the video was done, didn't you? No, I'm back here for a second day. Gonna take all the grab irons and stirrups off of the A end of the car. So I was smart this time. I wore myself a long sleeve shirt, got myself a set of gloves for working with that grinder, of course. Because I know there'll be some people out there questioning my sanity, why I'm using a grinder without wearing a long sleeve shirt. Oh, trust me, I felt it. Had little pock marks all over my arms by the time the day was done. Okay, here's today's focus. I'm gonna get the stirrups off, gonna get the grab irons off, and we'll kind of go from there, see what happens. And I'll also try and attempt to get these J bolts off of the car too. Hopefully, and just hopefully, I won't break these ones. So how about a little bit of railroad terminology before I get the day started, eh? These J bolts, as well as the chains right here, they're called brake hangers. This guy is called the brake beam. What do you think these guys are for? One of the biggest takeaways from high school was a phrase given to us by the science teacher: form follows function. It got you to think critically on certain problems. You're looking at the function, you're looking at the shape, the size, what it's connected to, and determining what it would be used for. So what about it, huh? What are these things? If you guess safety chains, you'd be correct. Give yourself a golden star. Bless me. So as I was going along, trying to avoid stuff like this, but cutting into the face of this hardware, luckily, at least for this particular one, it looks like I can shave it and polish it up. It's gonna get cleaned up anyways. So they'll go all the way down to the base metal, and then they'll get painted freshly, so all the edges will look nice and sharp and crisp. And I'll also bend these back straight because my OCD kicks in when I see a bent grab iron or a bent stirrup. So I'll show you what my wife did the other day, cause she, oh no, good catch. Let me show you what my wife was doing the other day while I was grinding away. She was removing these pieces of wood that go along the length of the car. These guys acted as tack strips for the roof, and they need to come off. For the time being, we're leaving these ratchet straps into place so the car can remain square. Eventually, we're gonna have to go in and take these guys off. These are called down rods, and the down rods are actually holding this whole car into place. All these railroad cars are held together with a style of carpentry called mortise and tenon. You can see it right here. There's a pocket up in this top sill, and then there's a notch up here in this upright beam. And even though it looks like this bolt is holding it together, it's not. It's going through it, probably. Gravity is more or less holding everything in together. But that's what these down rods are for. They're meant to take this whole construction, because it's pocketed up there, and it's pocketed down there in that little metal block that you're seeing. And then that down rod is meant to suck everything together, creating very strong construction all the while not using very much hardware. Also, as I'm continuing to take hardware off, there's a bunch of extra stuff that you see over here in the corner. We'll end up classifying that. These guys were all on the roof as roof walk pieces. And it looks like there's 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh, there's only 3. There should be 4. I'm pretty sure I could buy another one from the railroad. I'll have to put the ratchet and pawl away. But you can see this is an original casting. D&RG. Denver and Rio Grande. So this casting is pre-1920, more or less. Okay, I spent about a half hour getting this kit off. This is A-A-E. Yeah, that sounds right. That's 3 out of 4 kits that are taken off of the car. So I think we're making good headway, all things considered. It's slow going. I've decided that I'm not gonna save a lot of the original hardware. Some of the square head nuts and carriage bolts will end up saving for maybe various little odds and ends. All in all, I think these bolts have stayed in the car for a very, very long time. But I think it's time to order new stuff. The last time it looked like this car was built was in Alamosa in 1942 by the looks of it. So I'd say a lot of these nuts and bolts have had a good long run. I'm waiting for some batteries to charge, so I'll take a little break. In the meantime, I came underneath here to see how the other brake hanger and safety chains were mounted, and it looks like it's about the same. A J-bolt that goes all the way through and is unfortunately double nutted on this side. I don't know if I like that. That's going to be a pain. I wouldn't have taken on a project like this if I didn't know what I was getting myself into. Railroad stuff is just hard to work with, as well as really heavy on the process, so a lot of time, preparation, and care is needed when you're taking something like this apart and putting it back together. Well, I got this entire brake beam right here loose, ready to come down when those bolts come off, but unfortunately when the bottom rod dropped, it put a hole in my hat. Darn it. Well, I guess I got a work hat now. Woo. Get this brake shoe off. Now you see why the safety chain's there. It's almost taut, but it's still hanging onto the brake beam, preventing it from going all the way down. Oh, stubborn. Good sign. It's moving. Try not to mushroom the bolt. That's not a hammer. That's a hammer. Okay. So unfortunately the one on the other side broke. This one's not budging either. The whole bolt's just twisting. This one's gonna break too. Oh no. Yeah. Look at that. Pretty. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised that some of them are even coming out at all. The ones that I worry about the most are these really big ones right here. These ones I cannot break. So I'm stressed about how to get those out. But that's also for a later date. Hey, that brake shoe's still got a bit of meat on that. It's a 1,000-mile shoe, man. Put it back in, it's good. So good news, I can take these cut levers off. Because I just pulled the pin, and there's this cotter key right here. As soon as I pull that cotter key, then there's a pin that'll come out, and I can take the whole cut lever off. I'll do that on both sides today as well. And with that, I've got all the packages taken off of the car. All 8 of them. Only took me 2 days. I'm cleaning up just a few more pieces of hardware to put into the storage bin. But yeah, we're getting pretty close to wrapping up for today, which is good because I'm a little hot, a little tired. I could use a little break. And there you go, folks. Almost an entire car's worth of hardware along the side wall of a Zircon. And I say almost an entire car worth of hardware because for some reason I forgot about the other door. For another day. So quite a few days have elapsed since I last took any video of this whole project, but as you can see, part of a wall is missing behind me. I had to take a handful of days out of disassembling this car so I could rebuild a little flatbed trailer so I could haul materials. Thankfully, I did take pictures of that whole rebuild process, so here you go. You get to see that. So now that the trailer's all done and finished and it's roadworthy, it's time to load it up with some more scrap wood and clean up this place a little bit. We've made an absolute mess of this place, and I feel bad for doing so. So before we throw a little bit more lumber away, I gotta make some electrical repairs. It looked like the frame itself is separating from the body of the trailer. Pulled the electrical wires that I installed, so let me fix those real quick. I am missing some electrical connections, so a bent over wire it will have to do for now. On, hazards on, side marker working, tail lamp on and flashing, tail lamp on and flashing, and markers on. Sweet, we're ready to rock and roll. Oh, now you trapped the bolt. Nice.
Sorry.
And here we are again, day number, I'm not sure. Somebody's keeping track of the days. Editor me knows more than I do. So I'm gonna peel more wood off of the car today, but first I need to fix my trailer again. I figured out why the wires are pulling out from underneath. This thing becomes a bucking bronco with every little heap and sag, and the body's actually separating from the frame. Yeah, I got your nuts. Got your nuts right here. Okay. Okay, I think it's stable again. Thank goodness, I was starting to worry about this thing. Now we can get back to the demolition process. So as per handshake agreement, some lucky foamer's getting these guys right here. They were a pain in the butt to remove. I love you, Peyton. So check this out here. ALA, which is short for Alamosa. I believe the interiors of a lot of these stock cars, box cars, all that kind of stuff had the service dates on them, when they were rebuilt, and who the shop foreman was at the time. So the only thing that I can see, unfortunately, is the ALA. It would have been kind of cool to figure out who worked on this car, or who was the foreman in the Alamosa shops at the time. Also, this head block up here, DNRG is painted on it. You can see that right there. We're gonna save that one and put it in the tiny home. Don't worry, that's a valuable one. The walls are empty. These walls are kind of scary. They're getting a little wobbly now that everything's gone off of them. For the meantime, this is my next scary task. I need to take this back into Durango so I can get rid of it. Wish me luck now. Alrighty guys and gals, are you ready for this? Today is the day. The walls are officially coming down. We'll be down to a frame by the end of the day. You just watch. And to help me with this process, my wife let me buy a new tool. The grinder motor that I was using actually killed 2 of my DeWalt batteries. No, I'm serious, let me show you. These 2 right here all of a sudden are no more. As you can see, I can press the button, nothing. When I plug it into the charger, dead as a doornail. But it does work because you can take any other battery, stick it in here. See? And it's charging. This one's about the same, however, it reads 1 bar on it, you see? You gotta plug it in like that, and it'll act like it's charging. But then it'll say, nope, it's fully charged. This, however, says otherwise. So needless to say, I'm sorely disappointed that the grinder motor would do that. Guess it's an inefficient tool when it comes to battery power. Of course, you need a knife in order to open the box. A screw will do. Oh. Oh yeah, baby. Gotta love that new tool smell. Let's get a battery on this thing, see if it works. Oh, now we're cooking with gas. Darn these child-proof packages. They're adult-proof too. Where's a knife? So all that's remaining today is I need to cut the remainder of these down rods here. And I'm thinking about cutting them right here and not down below. Boy, I'm shivering a little bit. Let me get a jacket on. Okay, that's better. All these angled pieces, if I don't end up using them, they're going to be part of a trade deal to the Roundhouse foreman so I can get some additional parts for this baby when it starts going back together. The other thing that's got to come down, or things I should say, are these angled pieces right here. This is what was holding up the roof. Now once those come down, then I can remove these top sills that are behind me and probably end up cutting them up. They're so rotten, I don't know if I'll be able to save any bit of them. But some of these queen posts here are definitely salvageable enough to where I can make trim out of them. It'd be a nice little history thing that would carry over from the old car. Oh, and of course, that top sill with the DNRG 5605 is pretty darn cool. I'm hoping that's original because that predates the 1920s if that painting is original. But I suppose I've done enough talking for now. I'm just gonna dive right into work because I got a lot to do today. nice little skylight that we have here now. Next process is going to be to cut these down rods. Actually, no, I'm getting ahead of myself. Next one's going to be cutting the bolts off of these corner braces. The problem with cutting those off is that this car, if you look at it, it's already pretty darn wobbly. When I cut those corner braces, these walls aren't going to have anything to hold on to. Alright, ooh, that's spooky. The wall is officially loose now. Alright, I'm done messing around with battery-powered tools. Time to go corded. Boy, what a mess. And now this wall's just hanging. Alright, well, I've taken a little extra precaution and a little preparation work was done, but now the valuable part comes off, and I'm going to be very delicate to make sure that, well, it doesn't fall over. Ooh. It's like pulling Excalibur from the stone, as in very few would actually do it. Off you go. Wow. How nice is that? Denver and Rio Grande Railway, 5605. That's just beautiful. And just like that, I have a 30-foot long porch. Maybe I'll keep it this way. Nah, no, I need to build a tiny home on it. Or will I? Now I've left an absolute mess, so I'm gonna take the next hour or so left in my day, and I'm gonna clean up my mess, which is a lot. I'm also going to stash some of the more important hardware so it doesn't grow legs and walk off. Not that it would all the way out here in Oxford, but you never know. You've probably been seeing this guy sitting in the back. This is Denver and Rio Grande Western 119. A friend of mine, also named Kyle, has a GoFundMe to restore this railway post office. Now he's got a bigger can of worms than I do here. His car's 60 foot long while mine's only 30 foot. And he's in the process of doing a complete restoration on that car. So I'm going to leave his GoFundMe down in the description of the video, as well as my GoFundMe for converting this now big porch into a tiny house on rails. Well, that final leg just about dang near did me, and I'm tired. A lot of work today, covered a lot of ground, but the walls are officially down. Big sigh of relief. And that's a huge weight off of my shoulders too. And as the sun sets here in the west, it's time to close this video. You know what that means. We'll see you back at the house. Hello there. You caught me in the middle of Movember trying to get my beard back for the old cold winter months that are on the way. So let's talk totals, shall we? Not a whole lot of money was spent this time around, but that's okay. There'll be more money for lumber and supplies and appliances and, well, the list goes on and on from there. For the tool trailer and all the stuff needed to finish it out, it cost me $250. Just my luck, I had to rebuild a wooden trailer during the lumber price spike this particular year. Thankfully, the only lumber that I bought brand new were the deck boards, but still, 5 2 by 12 by 10 footers cost me $125 out of that $250. Kind of hurt a little bit in the pocketbook. And the only new tool that I needed to purchase this time around was that Sawzall, and that cost me $161. Now let's take those two numbers and add it to the $2,562 of the last episode. The grand total for this time around is $2,972. This project's almost cost us $3,000 so far. Kind of crazy. The money gets spent very, very quickly. As mentioned earlier, I had to take time and rebuild the trailer. That took me 4 days to do, but hey, not too bad for a complete strip and rebuild of an old trailer, especially if that trailer was for free. And then we'll throw in an additional 5 days for removing the walls of the old 5605. Add that with the total from the previous video and we have 13 days on this project thus far. Now keep in mind, for this series, I'm not figuring in gas money or food money. Those are basic things that we need to survive, so I'm leaving that out. The totals that I'm coming up with for this particular series only pertains to the tiny home itself, and that helps keep things simple in my mind, at least. For you guys and gals that have made it all the way through this video, thank you very much. I know this one's a particularly long one, just about double of what I usually make, but I feel like part of this strip down process is very important because when we start seeing everything go back together, then it'll make sense as to where all the parts and pieces are going. And please let me know if I need to add more detail or subtract detail. You guys can leave me comments down below. And of course, if you can financially support us in turning this old rundown stock car into a tiny house on rails, the link for our GoFundMe is down in the description below. We would love nothing more than to see our dream become a reality. And that about wraps it up for this video, folks. Thanks for coming along on our adventure, and I hope you had just as much fun as we did out there. Now may God bless you, and you have a good night.